Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to episode 32 of Trail Society, brought to you by our friends over at Freetrail. My name is Corrine Malcolm.
I'm Keely Henninger.
And I'm Hillary Allen.
And we're all at home somehow. And I think before we hit record, we were just talking about how we're all, life is feeling a little bit chaotic. I told the woman helping put this crown in my mouth today at the dentist, I was like, I thought the week was really long and I realized it's only Tuesday.
Yep. Yeah. And I just was talking about my stress stream where I run Western States, and then by mile 70, I get stuck in a maze of 5 different puzzles and I have to complete them in order to move on, and everyone catches me.
So we're doing really, really phenomenally well.
Yeah.
Keely, how's the ankle? You're running. You definitely look like you're running. Like I've seen Strava and Instagram proof that you're running.
Yes.
Is what I mean. What's up there?
Yeah, I'm definitely back to running. I actually just got the green light to cut out all of my Ultra G miles this week. So no more Ultra G. So it's all on ground running from this point forward, which is really exciting. But yeah, I mean, I'd say I feel pretty good most of the time, but then sometimes I feel like crap and I freak out and think that my ankle is broken again, or that my hips are broken, or all sorts of stuff's broken. And then, I go talk to my physical therapist and he tells me that everything is actually amazing. I'm progressing well, and that I'm going to start doing this kind of run or this kind of workout. And I always have to look at him like, really? I feel like I'm just like treading water here. And he's like, no, you're doing really good. And so anybody else going through an injury, I feel your pain. It is like a roller coaster, but we're coming out, and just trust yourself and have fun with it. And it's really fun to be back running because I missed it. It was like, losing a friend.
Yeah, it feels like that for sure. Steven was gearing up to take our dog for a run on Sunday. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go mountain bike out in that area. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to ride my road bike. It's like, it's easier. I'll feel better if I go do that right now. And I was like legit sad for like the first time in a second. Cause I was like, oh, I want to go do this thing with you. Like I want to go for a run that looks so nice and easy and not complicated. And I'm not going to worry about my rear tire flatting the entire time or whatever it is that I'm freaking out about. But yeah, I saw UW Sports Med on Friday. For those of you following the pelvis saga, which it definitely is a saga at this point, we're treating kind of as we tried to ramp back up my miles, I got a little bit of a kind of a unweighting pain at my pubic rami again, which is like indicative of bone, not soft tissue. So we kind of are just being extra cautious, pulled back on everything. I'm like I've got an MRI scheduled, but I'm kind of on the fence if we get it or not. Just because we're pretty sure it's like a level 1 stress reaction. And, we know exactly what I need to do, like take a little bit of time off, and then I can start run walking and kind of ramp from there. But I think it's like leaning into what your PT says, leaning into what your ortho says, and being like your coach, right? Like being like kind of that Jesus take the wheel moment, because you need someone in your corner who isn't mistaking the forest for the trees, right? Who can like have that zoomed out view, or who can like kind of break up your own clouded judgment of yourself and be like, no, actually you're good. No, actually that workout was good. No, actually your mobility is really amazing. Like you're progressing as you should, because I think when you've been hurt for such a long time, and Hillary knows this all too well, I think as well, it's really easy to not trust yourself at all. And so being able to trust someone else, I feel like is really, really awesome and very valuable.
Yeah. I mean, and this isn't meant to sound like sad. It's just matter of fact, at least for me, it's been, for the past 5 years, kind of like on and off, injuries all related to my big accident, but it doesn't get easier, but, to deal with the ups and downs, but you just get better at adapting, I would say. And because it's a constant roller coaster, it's like, I always view it. It's like, okay, maybe you still have to go on the crazy upswings and the big downswings, but that you get almost used to that feeling, or used to recognizing what you need in those moments. And so I just think it's never easy, but it's always a good learning experience. And at least it hopefully should form some sort of community that, we're in it together to some extent, even though we can't do the recovering for one another.
Totally. Yeah. I think the ups and downs, they like give us our own story, you know. JT, when I was really struggling, said something like, you know, J.K. Rowling didn't write all the Harry Potters as one book. She wrote them as separate books for a reason. So it's like, you know, these are all parts of our novel to, you know, whatever end we may get. But it's not one chapter, it's multiple chapters.
Yeah, it's really easy to write the finish, to write like that last page before you've even gotten started. So don't do that. Don't write your last page yet. We'll go chapter by chapter with all of us here. And kind of in that vein today, we're actually going to, we're not going to get there yet, but at post race, some racing news and some news, we're going to answer some more of your personal questions, things that you have DM'd us over the course of the past, you know, several months since the last time we did this. And we'll talk a little bit about what's coming down the road after that as well. But first, we have to give a huge shout out to one of the companies making this possible for us over here at Trail Society, and that is Athletic Greens. Again, Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a bunch of gut health issues, and he ended up on this super complicated supplement routine that cost him over $100 a day, which is insane. And in creating Athletic Greens, you know, he found that it was hard to otherwise create an optimal nutrition routine on his own. And so since then, this has been shown to improve sleep quality and recovery and supports mental clarity and alertness because it's got all sorts of yummy mushrooms in it, but not that kind of mushroom. You know what I'm talking about. So very cool. We're happy to be working with them. Steven has been digging into my stash though recently. So I'm going to have to get back on the phone with Athletic Greens because it is dwindling quickly over here. But if you would also like to try Athletic Greens, they are going to give you 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/trail society. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/trail society. And you too can take ownership over your health and pick up this ultimate daily nutritional insurance. We don't have a lot of races to talk about, you guys, but I think we put two in. It's going to be a soft races episode and a bigger news episode, I think, before we do a little Ask Us Anything. Keely, you pulled in the road 10 mile national champs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the USA Road 10 mile national championship was this weekend, and they actually run it as a really cool format. They start the women before the men at a delta from the average men's time. So the women started close to 6 minutes ahead of the men. And whoever wins the entire race gets the equalizer bonus, which is like 10 grand. And so it's like really cool for whoever wins. And so Fiona O'Keefe, who's a 24-year-old, only been pro for about a year, she won the 10 mile championships in a new record. She beat Molly Huddle's record and ran 51:42. And she held off the men's winner, Hillary Bohr, who ran 46:06. And won her equalizer bonus, which is awesome. And it was her first year as a pro. So I feel like that is pretty cool as a 24-year-old. And then another really cool thing about this race is that Sam Shalanga got second, who's just a goat, man. He is 37 years old and just still crushing it, throwing down with the speedy youngins. And so super cool to see him grab second in a 10 mile race at that age. He's just showing up.
Yeah. Wow. Speaking of goats, a result that we did not put in here, but giving a shout out to the amazing race that happens in Spain every year. Ultra Pyreneo happened this past weekend. They had snow on the high points of the course. Our own Dylan Bowman ran his first race since becoming a dad. Got to carry baby Rhodes across the finish line in the men's race. And I think Rhodes slept the entire finish line stretch, which is hilarious because it's like very loud. But Nuria Pikas is back. Which I just love to see. This woman tore up the scene from like the early, like kind of mid-late aughts all the way through like 2017. 2017, she won UTMB and Ultra Pyreneo that year, I'm pretty sure. And then we really haven't seen her on the racing scene a whole lot since then. You know, if you look at her race results from 2014 or 2015, like she raced a lot. And we've seen that, you know, historically with a number of women and men over the years where people raced a lot in those kind of like late, like I guess the aughts kind of, and then into, you know, the early 2010s as well. And so to see Nuria, who's I think in her 40s, not only win, but set a course record was really cool. Like so happy for her to be back on the racing scene and racing phenomenally well.
Yeah. Nuria is 45.
Yeah. And as a mom, I think she's got a couple boys, like so cool to see.
Speaking of moms, Emily Forsberg, she got third in the marathon at Ultra Pyrenees, and all three of the ladies actually went under the previous course record. So Emily is back.
I love it. I love it. So the other race that we were I've always kind of followed in the periphery is Spartathlon. It's, it's a long, it's over 100 miles, right? Well over 100 miles, 246 kilometers, a long race. And it's a road ultra as well. And so it generally pulls kind of a slightly different group than normal. But we want to give a shout out to two US ladies on the podium, which is really, really exciting. Marissa Lazak of Marina Del Rey, California was second in 25:34, eighth overall, and the sixth fastest all-time finish. So cool. And then Micah Morgan of Birmingham, Alabama was third in 27:23:44, 12th overall, top 20 all time. Camille Herron was in this race, and I was really excited to see what she could do here because I think it's a race for her, right? Like this is definitely her jam. And from her post, it sounds like she had to drop out early. I don't know if it was a sprinter van or a vehicle. She had a close call with a vehicle. It's on the road, and that kind of just frazzled her. And I've experienced that on road runs and on the bike. It can be really hard to kind of calm yourself down and feel confident continuing on running solo like that. So she ended up dropping from that race, which is a bummer, but
yeah, such a bummer. I think she'll go back. The sad thing about that car accident was that, I believe she had a really bad car accident like 3 or 4 years ago before a race as well. So I think this close call really hit close to home for her.
Yeah. I think easy to kind of get shaken up again. We're going to kind of pivot to some news, and Hilly, kind of pulling off of your former time with the North Face law. I mean, the mountaineering community, the North Face team lost their team captain last week in Hillary Nelson. I'm just wondering if you have anything that you'd like to say kind of in regards to losing a very bright light in the sport of ski mountaineering.
Yeah. And I'm going to try my best not to cry. Yeah, we've, I think like, it's been a lot to process that it's actually true. I mean, I heard about the accident happening, and, you wait to actually see if it's actually true. Right. And obviously, hearing firsthand from her climbing partner, Jim Morrison, it's like, not only did we lose someone, a key member of the mountaineering community, but I think we lost someone who has guided women's sports for years. She's been someone that I've looked up to. I mean, not only is she a mom, but she just constantly pushed the edge of what women were capable of doing. She had this grace about her that, basically she didn't care what other people thought. She was just going to do what she knew she was capable of. And in that, she motivated so many people around her, not even with, words or aggressive action, just by what she could do in the mountains and what she believed that she could do. And I've had a lot of time to, say goodbye, come to terms, with it. But I think everyone in the mountain community is really hurting. And I know her two sons are, really hurting. So I think, and of course her climbing partner and life partner. So it's always devastating to lose someone in the mountains, and especially someone like Hillary. And I think what she's done is going to speak to women for decades to come. And it's really sad that we have to deal with her legacy now. And we can't share in, her mountain exploits anymore. But it's been really hard. And, I only knew her for I knew her for a while when I was on the North Face team, but I never had the chance to, climb mountains alongside of her, only, run on trails and go to athlete events. And I mean, I always thought of Hillary as a real living Wonder Woman. She also looks like her too. So, yeah, I have no other words. It's so devastating. And I think that I'm just sending all the positive thoughts to the greater mountain community, running community, women in general, and especially to Hillary's loved ones.
Yeah. And if you have not yet read the Outside online piece that came out this past week called In Defense of Adventurous Mothers, it's brilliant. It's really, really good. And it speaks to that. And it speaks to the double standard placed on women and mothers in the adventure world. And somewhere that, Hillary definitely pioneered along with Allison Hargreaves, who passed away in the 90s as well. And so it's a really, really beautiful piece. So we'll link it in the show notes if we can. But yeah, that piece is will hit you in the feels and make you think a lot. So do that, and then send a prayer and a hug virtually out into the mountain community, because it really needs it right now. Mm-hmm. And from there, we're going to seamlessly transition.
We'll need some music or something.
He'll drives some tears to talking about the world's team that got named for the U.S. It got announced this past week. This is the delayed Worlds that was supposed to take place in Thailand last year. Well, COVID year, and then last year, and now it's finally going to happen. I think 40 athletes were named to the U.S. team, because that includes there are 4 senior races and then a U20 race. And these events used to happen kind of in a not synchronous fashion. They happen on their own schedule. They were their own events, and now they've kind of come under one hub as the de facto Trail World Championship, supported by most national governing bodies like USA Track and Field, for example, for us. So that team was named this past week. All of the usual suspects, I think, are in that mix, those who qualified and those who submitted resumes and petitioned, which is something that people should know about, that these teams are not completely filled by race results or by being at specific races. You can apply to these teams as well. That's where Keely and I got to spend some time together, was on a world's team in Italy a number of years ago, but they named the vertical mountain running team, which is 8.5 kilometer uphill race. Lauren Gregory, Allie Mack, and Grayson Murphy make up that team for the women. Joe Gray, Cameron Smith, Cam Smith, and then Dan Kurtz for the men. Some of those athletes will be doubling back for the mountain team, which is an 11.2 kilometer race that is in an up-down format. And that will be Grayson Murphy, Sam Lewis, Rachel Tomazik, and Corey Dow on the women's side. And then on the men's side will be Joe Gray, Andy Wacker, Mason Copey, and Morgan Elliott. I think last time they did a race a race championships like this, David Sinclair doubled back because someone was injured or sick or something, and he raced multiple events after not being named to do so. So people will kind of step up and fill in where need be. And then the 40K team, kind of the marathon team, is Michelle Marilis, who won a race out. She qualified off of a race on the East Coast earlier this year. Christina Massinaris, who's a Colorado athlete. She has won the Pikes Peak Marathon has raced that race a lot. Super good there. Stevie Kramer. So good to see Stevie Kramer on this team. Kimber Maddox, who's having an amazing season, and Ashley Brossovin. The men are Max King, Jonathan Ezes, Noah Williams, Joseph Demore, and Zach Miller. So seeing Zach Miller race a trail marathon in my mind is really exciting.
That's fun.
And then Max King has had to turn down this team a bunch. He was supposed to be on teams that I've made in the past, and due to sponsor obligations has been basically told that no, he shouldn't do that race. So really, really excited to see Max on a trail team, because he's raced 100K road worlds, but I feel like he's had to turn down the trail team a bunch. So cool to see him here. Then for the 80K team, we've got Jennifer Lichter doing her debut 50 miler. Brittany Charbonneau, or the funny runner, Addie Bracey, Caitlin Gerben, and Leah Yingling, fan favorite Leah Yingling.
That's a rock star team.
It is
such a good team. So excited to see what Jennifer Lichter does at that distance as well. And then David Sinclair, Eric LaPuma, Adam Peterman, Adam Mary, and Jeff Colt is the men's team. So like what also a group stacked. Of studs.
Yeah. Wow. So we're showing up this year.
Yeah.
USA.
Yeah. Go Team USA. Notable missing from this, and I have to believe it's due to Golden Trail Series obligations. Totally. Yeah. And that's going to be Sophia Lockley, Tabor, and Eli Hemming. Because I was assuming that they'd apply to a team like this and would be shoo-ins for a 40K team, or an up-down mountain team. Danny Moreno and Bailey Kowalczyk are not on this team, and I'm assuming this has to do with Golden Trail Series being a conflict because this race is in early November.
Yeah, because they're all in the final, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be interesting to see who prioritizes going to a thing like this versus going to Golden Trail. Cause I think someone like Blondine will be at this, for example. Though she, I think could have gone to the finals, given that she was at that race in Norway and came to the US to race. So I think it's kind of an interesting mix of athletes that will be at both of those things with timing. But it should be a good race. Does Adam Peterman bring home like another big top of the podium finish here? Like we could have many. I think we're gonna see podiums out of the US team. I think we've got a chance to winning some overall medals as a team, and we could see a bunch of world champions and the likes of Joe Gray, Grayson Murphy, Adam Peterman. The list goes on. So just so excited to watch.
Yeah.
I put in a couple more things that I thought were super interesting. The first, and we'll just kind of hit this quickly, was the UCI is going to host the national championships for Afghanistan for women's road cycling. They evacuated out a bunch of women with the kind of rise of the Taliban in the fall, kind of the fall of the organizational country there. So they have organized the 2022 Women's Road Championships of Afghanistan. It's going to take place in Switzerland by UCI headquarters. In the aftermath of kind of what everything that was going on over there, the UCI and others, including the Israel Premier Tech owner, Sylvan Adams, helped several Afghan women cyclists and their families flee the country. So it's kind of cool that the UCI is supporting these women and putting on their national championships, given that they wouldn't be able to do these things if they were still at home. So I thought that was very, very cool, and that had come across my radar through Velo News. And then Mother and Solomon helped to put on the Solomon Women's Half Marathon in Marin County recently. And the big thing that happened there is that they piloted new standards of lactation support and childcare at races. And they sent out a survey afterwards. They'll try to find the link to for everyone. I don't know if it's still open or not, but that was really interesting because it was for people who were lactating or people who weren't lactating, but like, would you support these initiatives? So essentially, this is kind of quoting from the article here. They set a new standard for parental support at races to serve and demonstrate the necessary structures for the future of work and recreation when it comes to gender equity and parenting. Access to quality childcare allows for the necessary time and space that mothers need, not only for career advancement, but also for personal development, recreation, rest, and more. Access to lactation space that fully accommodates the needs of those choosing to pump or breastfeed provides flexibility, such as the choices around breastfeeding and pumping are not limited by the lack of structure outside of the home. So they provided a place to pump at both the start and the finish, and at certain aid stations along the course, and also the ability to store and transport breast milk. So they, like, in a lot of ways, I think people will feel this is like them going above and beyond, but I think it was a really cool standard to set, and an interesting thought process of like, how do you do this at big races? How do you make this the norm? Is it possible to make it the norm? What logistical nightmares come up from it? But really, really cool that they were able to support women or people choosing to breastfeed in this way at this race. So I thought that was very, very cool to see.
Yeah, I am really excited about this. I would love to hear the opinion from some mothers who are at that race.
Yeah. So if you're at that race, or if you're a person who breastfeeds or pumps or whatever it might be, childcare stuff, like, was this something that interests you? Is this something that you wish was at more races? Maybe, your kids are older, but you wish this would have been available while you were going through these phases of parenthood. So slide into our DMs. We'd love to hear from some parents on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is kind of perfect timing because in the scientific literature as well, pregnancy and pregnant females are getting a lot of attention for once, which is pretty cool because typically there's not a lot of scientific research in this space. And so a lot of women that we've had on the podcast, namely Stephanie Howe, Clara Bernard Miller, have also that they've been kind of, fending for themselves when they're pregnant to try to figure out, what should they do? Like what is good? What will happen after pregnancy? And so one paper in particular came out of Canada, team of Durach et al. They followed actually 42 elite middle to long distance runners. They followed them through their entire pregnancy journey. So they started during pre-pregnancy and they went through post, which is awesome. And they actually found that 60% of the participants who actually intended to return to running after pregnancy had no statistical downturn in performance. Which is awesome. And that 46% actually had improved performance post-pregnancy. And so as soon as I read this article, I actually sent it to my friend, Rachel Drake, and my other friend, Marianne here, who are both pregnant. And I just got a bunch of really stoked emojis back, obviously like, all right, we're going for it. But I think this is really encouraging for women out there who are, trying to push their bodies to the limit and be the best athlete they can be and choosing to take a pause to have a child, to actually read about other women being able to return to sport at a level the same or better than they were before child is really, really, really encouraging. So I'm really excited about this kind of work. Hopefully they can continue this kind of work and really dive into, body changes that happen, physiological changes that happen, and really dive into all of these parameters around women who are undergoing pregnancy. But I would say this is really promising. And the final little tidbit about this study was that they actually found that the performance gain or maintenance was not related to how much mileage they ran during their trimesters. And so again, there's not a one size fits all. You didn't have to be that 1% of pregnant women who could run every step of your pregnancy. There was no relationship between your ability to run during your pregnancy and how good you were able to run after. And so I thought that was a really, really cool study. And as I was diving down deeper and deeper into Science Direct, I found that a lot of studies have been published this year around pregnant women, and specifically athletes, not always elite athletes. And they're coming out with a lot of findings. And I'll shout out here to Dr. Kelly Hogan, who sends me a ton of articles on Twitter, and I love her for it. And I just went down a rabbit hole, and, I'll put some of these in the show notes, but basically there's now a lot of work that's coming out that's showing that, physical activity and nutrition actually do matter a lot for mother health and for infant health. And so, it doesn't have to be that you're an elite runner when you're pregnant, but, continuing on the exercise regimen, whatever that may be for you, is really important for your health and your baby's health. And so I think just, at least seeing this out there, showing that we're actually studying women and showcasing how we can, improve the health of women and their babies is really exciting for the future. So keep yourself active, whatever that may be while you're pregnant. It doesn't have to look pretty. Just get out there a little bit.
Yeah. I remember going to the ACSM conference and talking to people about this, about how do you can't really do interventional studies on pregnant women. Getting approval from ethics committees it's a little bit harder when it comes to pregnant women, despite the fact that pregnant women are active, pregnant women are inactive, pregnant women get sick, pregnant women are sick to begin with sometimes, like it's, but we don't want to do research on them because they're two lives kind of that we're thinking about there. So, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't be, kind of trying to pursue answers for people that fit into that category. So yeah, it's yes to people doing this work because it's not easy. Right. But I think we're going to segue now into the meat and potatoes, and our meat and potatoes is kind of our, answers to questions directly from you, the audience. We got a late breaking one that I'm excited about that I think we'll be able to wax poetically on for a while. But to start, we got to thank our other kind of key sponsor here, and that's the Feed. Again, your one-stop shop for all your nutrition needs. The Feed was built as a way to try new products and diversify the nutrition you consume during your activities, which means, as I think Keely pointed out, you're not married to one flavor for the entirety of a box, because we've all been stuck with 20 of something before. And sometimes it's a great problem. And sometimes you're like, I can't eat one more of these. By offering that single serving of the best sports nutrition products around and shipping it all in one box directly to you, means you get to dabble and try a little bit of everything. And it also means that you're not sourcing it from all over the place, which saves a lot. I guess it could shave a lot of waste associated with multiple shipments and boxes. Plus, they ship things out really quickly. 95% of orders go out same day.
So we got a new URL for our feed partnership. And we're going to share it all with you guys because our last feed link got a little bit hijacked. So our newest deal actually gives you guys $15 of feed credit. And all you have to do is follow www.thefeed.com/Trail Society. And this will give you $15 in feed credit. Instead of the 15% off, you'll just get $15 to spend at the feed. So hope you guys enjoy our new URL and let us know if you have any trouble.
I know that I've been dabbling in a bunch of different things. While I'm a sucker for waffles and will always be, I'm wondering what else. I would like one sponsorship just from waffles, please. But because I spend a lot of my monthly stipend on it. But I'm wondering what your go-to fuel for pre-run is right now from both of you gals.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Corrine, but you got me on the waffle train. So literally this morning I just went out for a ride, and it was a very early ride. I froze my butt off, but I had a waffle with some peanut butter. It was so amazing. I toast mine. It's so good.
I toast mine too.
Maybe this is a problem because like I'm almost done with the package, and I literally got my feet thing like on Friday. So
there's 6 waffles in a package. So that's not crazy.
Okay.
Also,
well, I feel sad that I see it disappearing, but I mean, other than that, so thank you, Corrine, because I was finally just like, okay, what am I going to get in my pack? And then it's like, I haven't had waffles in a while. So, morning, lunch, and dinner for me, at least. But I've actually, the JoJ bar, like bars have been working really well for me lately because it's good for like the longer, like slower mountain training that I'm doing. And then on the bike. But yeah. And obviously it's just the protein recovery mixes. I like that. I've been trying out a few brands that I like.
Yeah, I eat the same breakfast every morning, and a lot of it I don't get from the feed, so I'm kind of boring, but I really want to try the waffles. But I try a new bag of granola every time I order a box. And this time I tried Tao's Bakes, and it's quite good. So highly recommend if you guys are granola fans who listen. If you're not, I'm sorry. But if you are, which you should be, you should try either Picky Bar granola or Tao's Bakes granola. They're nice.
Yeah, we get the single serve sizes of the trail butter as well. So they come in like just over an ounce of, I think it's like an ounce and a half or something for the single serving size. And you can get them in a box of 12 though. And so you add that to your waffle and you're in business. So they're delicious. So go check it out. But without further ado, we're going to dive into a couple questions. We've got two, maybe 3 kind of longer questions, and then a bunch of rapid fire before we let you go. We'll make it through. I have confidence in us. But the first question had to do with iron. I don't know. I'm going to raise my hand. I have iron issues. Does anyone else here have iron issues? Hands up.
I just got my ferritin to get raised finally. So it went from 18 to 43 in 3 months. Yeah.
So question for you, while you were in Park City, riding your bike, were you supplementing iron while you were out there?
Of course. Yes. I have to every time I go to altitude, but I didn't last summer, and I hadn't tested for a year, and my ferritin went from 50 to 18 or 17. And so I tested in March, realized it was that low, started supplementing every other day. And then obviously continued that supplementation at altitude, which I would do now knowing regardless. I just kind of totally forgot last summer, and that was silly.
Yeah. So that's kind of a great point to start with. People need more iron generally across the board at elevation. But any of these recommendations come with a caveat. which we love, of working with your primary care provider, and not supplementing blindly. So getting a blood test, and that can just be a CBC and iron panel and getting your ferritin checked, because ferritin is not included in an iron panel usually. That will give you an idea of your iron stores, because men in particular generally don't have as low of iron as women. And then some people also have a genetic factor that puts them at risk for high iron, and high iron presents from a symptom standpoint. Wow, that was hard to get out. From a symptom standpoint, very similarly to anemia. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't blindly supplement, because iron will deposit in your organs, and you don't want that. So yeah, that's my big caveat there. But the person wrote in asking kind of what were the differences between low ferritin versus low iron, because they hear these things tossed around a lot. And again, when you're going in to get tested, you're going to look at CBC, an iron panel, which is going to do things like hemoglobin and hematocrit and a couple other fancy numbers like transferrin saturation and kind of stuff that we don't need to get into today. And then ferritin, and ferritin is different kind of as far as what we're looking for there. But essentially, and then anemia is another term thrown around there as well. And you can be iron deficient. You can have iron deficient anemia, and you can have non-iron deficient anemia. So kind of some definitional things, right? Ferritin is a blood protein that stores iron. So we think of a ferritin reading as your iron stores in your body, typically found in your liver, and then it's released into your body as needed. Essentially, your body also is protective, in which it'll do things called your hepcidin response. It releases this thing called hepcidin so that you can't absorb too much iron, because once again, it deposits in your organs. You don't want too much of it. You want the right amount of it. But exercise also increases hepcidin response, also large supplementation. So if you're like doubling down or tripling down on iron supplements, that also triggers this hepcidin response so that you can't absorb it all. So as Keely mentioned, supplementing every other day is a good way to do that, or supplementing within a window kind of post-exercise, but not too far after exercise where your hepcidin might be higher. So just there's a lot of kind of nuances there, but ferritin you can think of as your iron stores. Okay. But then the other big number that people look at is hemoglobin. And hemoglobin is really, really important for transportation of your oxygen. It's part of your red blood cells essentially, and it's what's going to carry your oxygen through your body. So that's the other big number that people look at. You'll also get a hematocrit number, but for the most part, that's generally pretty normal. If you're dehydrated, that will actually be high. So it's something to keep in mind. You want to be kind of normally hydrated when you go in to get these tests done. The big things to note though is that you can have normal hemoglobin but low ferritin, for example. And that's kind of what we would first call, I think that one classifies as like non-iron deficient anemia. And then as you kind of progress along that line, you end up having a drop in hemoglobin as well. And that's kind of when like more red flags go up. But that ferritin number, and why I asked Keely right off the bat, were you supplementing at altitude, was because we know for the most part, if your ferritin reading is below 35, and that's kind of across the board, men and women, we just kind of say 35. Some people say 40 even. It's really hard for your body to make adaptations at altitude. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be traveling to altitude to try to get a bump from being up there, or maybe you live up high. We try to stay above that 35 mark, which can be really hard. Technically, physicians, clinical settings don't really worry about you if your ferritin's above 12. I can tell you a ferritin of 12 is not very much fun. So
yeah, not fun at all.
So from an athletic standpoint, we say above 35 for benefits at altitude. And then generally speaking, we even say, hey, if you can get your ferritin above 60, that would be ideal. But I've raced really, really well with a ferritin of like 14. So don't let it get you down. But that's when you want to, those are reasons to supplement. It's kind of, you can have normal hemoglobin, but low ferritin. And if you just get an iron panel without getting your ferritin looked at, you'll miss that. And you won't look at quote unquote anemic. And those are kind of those to me are like the big things in and around, or the big main points in and around low ferritin versus low iron.
Yeah. And I have one more thing to add around iron level. So I get messages sometimes from people who get an inside tracker test or some sort of test, and they're like, why is my iron so high? And they start freaking out because they're like, this says I need to go talk to my doctor. Iron's toxic. And while, yes, iron can be toxic, like Corrine was saying, it can deposit into the organs. That's not great. We don't want high levels of circulating iron all the time. It is relatively
normal,
common to have high iron, especially if you are supplementing. So if you supplemented the day before your blood draw, your iron will be high, right? And so that doesn't always mean you have high iron that really needs medical attention. But it is something to be aware of, that level can fluctuate, and the iron level is much more able to fluctuate than like your ferritin level. So that's why getting that ferritin level is really important, because it's much more consistent of a level, because it's the store and not just free iron.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you don't have a lot of ferritin kind of on board, it actually impairs your ability to utilize the oxygen that you're transporting to your body. So
yeah. And you need oxygen. You need it to the muscles to go.
So I think that's the big thing there is don't just get an iron panel, get ferritin alongside it, which is a pretty normal ask for a provider that might be ordering the test for you, just to make sure that is within normal range as well, because your hemoglobin can be totally normal and your ferritin can be low. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, like I said, I've raced really well on like 12 to 14 before. So it's not a game changer. It's not going to end you. But we can definitely make it better. And that would be ideal.
We want to hear all of your good stories about racing above 12 and 14.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other long question that we're going to answer, because I think it's really good. And this is the one that I said was kind of like late breaking. And I had someone write in and I said, don't worry, we're answering this for next week. And they're coming to California more than likely for an internship. They're training to be a vet. This is a very important internship. It's kind of like final steps to be like released into the world to be their own big animal vet after this. And so it's pretty intensive. They're potentially having to move to an area that doesn't have super great trail access. They're kind of in that in-between zone. They'd be like 2 hours from Yosemite, but then they're still a ways from like the coast, from like Santa Cruz. They're kind of in that inland empire. So they're just stressed out. They're worried that maybe, their running is going to be limited. They're worried that their ability to get to trails is going to be super limited, and they're worried that they're going to lose fitness. And so kind of we wanted whatever advice we might have to manage those, I think it's 3 months or so that they'll be living in that state and in that place.
So, I mean, the first thing I've read some of the comments that you put in there, Corrine, and I love the one, the sciencey one, because I had to go through this too. Even if you don't run for 2 weeks, like zero training, there's really no decline. And then it's maybe after that, you see about a 20% decline in VO2 max. So it's like, really, you have to do quite a lot of like resting before you see any decline in anything. So rest is not always a bad thing. And honestly, the other thing I would say is that 3 months might seem like an eternity, right? It's a disruption to your routine. It seems like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to deal with this? Like it's a drop of water in a huge bucket when you think about it. And, taking a little bit of time away or rest or like pivoting a little bit can probably, do you good. You could use it as an opportunity to learn that you could actually run less maybe sometimes.
Yeah. I was like, man, you can probably still run a little bit. And even if you run a little, like that's kind of like you can get away with a lot running just a little tiny bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to quote our favorite therapist, Daniel Snyder, stress is stress is stress. Right. And so, when I know I have something stressful coming up or a couple of weeks of something that's going to take up a lot of my time, a lot of my mental capacity, a lot of my stress, I know that I need to count that into my training, right? Because all of a sudden your training load goes from being something to something higher than that, because the amount of stress you're putting onto your body is now more than you had planned for. So you have to adjust that training to accommodate, because at the end of the day, you're getting the same amount of stress, right? And training in a nutshell is your body's ability to adapt to that stress. And so in a really backwards way, I think you should kind of put that in as part of your training and kind of factor that into how you build out that training and be okay with that being part of your adaptation for that month, right? Like this is going to be very helpful for you in your future life. the training is still going to happen. If I don't know you, but I'm sure you're some really, really driven, awesome go-getter gal. And you are just going to be crushing that internship. And you're also going to be still getting out there and running, even if it's not as much as you're used to. Your fitness is not going to go anywhere. And I think if you are okay running less, you're going to be running better. And you're not going to feel as crummy if you're actually able to, cut that mileage down and keep that stress level the same as before when you didn't have as stressful of a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stress is stress is stress. You can still run a little bit. Maybe you get a weekend off and you're going to Yosemite. You can get a little bit more fill. I would think of that as not training, but filling the spirit sponge.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get to Santa Cruz, if you can get to Yosemite, don't be like, I need to cram training in. Be like, I'm going to go fill my spirit sponge and be really happy. And that's going to sustain me for another week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it might be. And then just getting that little hit to get your body moving. That's what I'd focus on. And like remove the stress of like, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose a bunch of fitness. Cause a lot of us are sitting here injured being like, blah, we lose fitness all the time.
And it comes back really quickly too.
It really does. Yeah. And like your base fitness is there. Like it's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when I always use this analogy for training, like every now and again, you have to wring out the sponge, like you have to let it go. But even if you let the sponge go completely dry, if you put some water on it again, it still absorbs. Like that is you. Like you still know how to run, even if you take some time off.
Okay. I hope you're absorbing that at home. But right now, we're going to do some quick hits. It's going to be really fast. No thinking involved. I think we can do this. I believe in us. Mm-hmm. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
And I'll make Keely go and then Hillary go and then I'll go. Favorite running season?
September in Portland, Oregon.
Nice.
Fall, generally speaking.
I'm a fall person too. We're fall all the way around.
It's the best. It only lasts for a second though.
See, mine's not technically fall though. September in Portland. I know this isn't short, but September in Portland is always like 85 to 90. It isn't.
So
I'm kind of a summer runner.
Okay. Next one. You're 5 kilometers from home in a long run. Like you've been out for hours. What food are you dreaming about?
Waffles. That was Hillary. Sorry.
Oh, man. I think I don't dream of food right away. I dream of my Soda Stream fizzy water.
Oh,
all the bevies. I'm a bevy. I'm like, how many? Like I'm ordering multiple beverages from like Equator Coffee on the way down the hill from town, generally speaking. Like on the run, I'm like, I want this iced coffee. I want this lemonade. I'm good to go. Sounds like we're liquids. We're team liquids.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If there was another sport, time, money wasn't a factor, didn't need to be considered there. What other sport would you want to try to like go all in on?
Who's mountain biking? And with that, I would also say if time, money, and technique wasn't a factor.
Skill is not a factor.
Oh man, I'm going to go way left field. And one thing I've wanted to try for a really long time now is windsurfing.
Ooh.
You'd be a good windsurfer, Keely.
I think I'd be horrible, but I just think it could be fun.
I wish I was a dancer.
Ooh,
I think dance is just really cool and really beautiful and strong and all the things. What podcast are y'all currently listening to besides ours, obviously?
Currently mine is The Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell.
I was still on that kick too, but also add, it's called Honestly, a podcast by Barry Weiss. It's pretty good.
I'm adding it to my list. And then I've been listening to Hysteria, which is by Crooked Media. And it's kind of like us, but very political. Like it's 2 women and they always have like a third friend on, and it's amazing. It's great. If you need a good rant and you're ready to go be angry in the woods with your friends, listen to Hysteria. Okay. I love this question. It made me giggle a lot.
I have an answer.
If you're a Spotify playlist, what would your title be?
It's the title of one of my playlists already. And it's the title of a song by Ron Gallo, and it's Young Lady, You're Scaring Me.
I love it.
Honestly, I'm so lame. I don't even know if I can think of one.
Okay, I'm
going to go last.
Okay, mine would be Sad Dad Radio. That's my musical theme. I'm just sad dad radio.
I think mine's just Lego.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's go. Because I feel like all my pump up music is just what I'm always vibing. So Like
we have different vibes.
We do, little dad.
It's the sad dad over here. Okay, what's the single, and this is a hard one, but keep it snappy. What's the single biggest change you've made in your life or training that you're actively benefiting from right now? Mine is sleeping. Okay, I sleep now. I didn't sleep before. Like high school, college me, not a good sleeper. I love sleep now. Like, can't get enough of it. There could be something wrong with me, but I really love sleep. And I think I'm benefiting from it. I feel the difference.
Well, mine would be adding in protein and really being diligent about the timing of my nutrition. And that's during runs and making sure and post run or ride.
That's great. I'd say mine is expanding my life to encompass new things that are not running.
I love it. Look at us. We're balanced. Okay. Last one. And then we'll do just a wild round of society slamming and we'll let everyone go. If you could live somewhere else, anywhere else, where would it be?
In my van.
Okay,
and
perfect.
Wow.
In my van, so I could travel around driving, but also my van would be a boat so I could go to Europe.
Yes, there's a caveat there.
I mean, if I had to live somewhere else, I guess I would go live in Courmayeur. Twist my arm.
Okay. If I had to go live somewhere else, I think I'd go to Canmore.
I've never been.
I love
on my list.
One of my favorite training spots in the.
You want to go up this summer? I'll come.
Let's do it. Canmore trip. Here we come. Canadians, get at us. We know that you're listening. Okay. Last thing before we are completely out of time. Society Slam. Brought to you by Oura Ring.
Yeah.
Who has something in their inbox that they would love to share? Keely, Hillary,
I have
what
one.
do you got? Okay.
So my lovely friend Rachel Drake had her baby.
And he's so cute.
Adorable. And she recently posted about pregnant running. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate some of her bullet points for those of you who might be listening who are going through pregnancy and want some advice. She said, basically in a nutshell, we need to listen to our body and don't be surprised if every day feels different. We need to prioritize snacks. And you might surprise yourself with how much you need to eat, and that's okay. Make sure to bring water, even on shorter runs, because you might also surprise yourself with how thirsty you are. If your body says no to running, consider being gentle to your body and go for gentle walks or some sort of light physical activity to give yourself a mental release. And number 5, my favorite, is to practice gratitude. Your body is making a human.
I feel that way about not being pregnant too.
But shout out to Rachel. We love you.
We love you, Rachel. Fan favorite, your baby included. Hilly, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I have a local event here in Boulder that I just want to plug for people that are here, or even if they're not, they can kind of send us DMs and maybe we can do it like a follow-up episode. But the topic of women and training, and specifically with endurance training and strength training and nutrition, it's like a lot of factors. And so I'm teaming up with a strength coach and nutritionist, Dina. We had her on the podcast. And we're talking about all 3 aspects of training. I'm going to be there talking about the running portion of endurance training, a course specifically for women. It's on Tuesday. So October 11th. Over at Revo Sports and Performance, our gym here. We can link to it in the show notes. But if you're in town in Boulder area, you can come by. And if not, you can ask us questions or follow-up questions, or go back in and listen to that episode that we recorded with Dina, because it's got a lot of information there. And we're going to cover topics of how to best support the phases of your cycle with nutrition, strength training, and endurance training. So
amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
I have 2. My society slam this week is selfish, and it's a little bit of shop talk here. It's very brief. 1, you know how we always are slide into my DMs, hit me up. You guys do an amazing job of that. If you would like to do things like continuing these discussions offline, but with more than just me or Keely or Hillary, consider joining the pro membership over at Freetrail. We had an amazing discussion led by the parents that are in the Freetrail group, the Freetrail Pro membership group, about early specialization in sport. Some sharing their own personal experiences when they were kids, but also like what they're currently going through with young children. So that was really, really cool to be a part of. So consider it. Go check it out over at freetrail.com. That's the pro membership where you can join our Slack channel and chat about these topics off air with us.
Yeah, and slide into our Slack DMs.
Yeah, we do. So
it's a really fun community. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. Maybe we can discuss this episode. Anything you liked from ours, throw in there.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to say is that I'm getting tons of really cool pitches for the website itself, for article ideas. But ladies listening, I get a lot from men, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of them are brilliant writers, and we're going to have their stuff on the website, and it's going to be amazing. But ladies, pitch me, female voices, non-binary voices, voices from all over the place, from Europe, from Asia, from wherever you're listening, from our own backyards, maybe. Pitch me. Like, no idea too small. Maybe you're not a writer. That's okay. That's why you get to work with someone like me to hopefully add a little shine to whatever your idea might be. So, again, you can pitch me at Corrine, my name, at freetrail.com. Please, that's like my biggest DM slide in ever. Just email me, because I would love to share your voice with the rest of the world. And I think that's it for this week. We're just over time. We did a great job. We will see you all on the trails very soon.